uh, Lee Rush. Lee is the project manager for Forest at ChainSafe. Forest is the Rust-based client for the Filecoin network. The Forest team is also one of the core maintainers of the built-in factors repo. Previously, Lee has held roles related to DeFi development, developer advocacy, and decentralized oracles, and has made contributions to Ethereum EIPS. So let's give him a round of applause.
Cool. Hello. What's up, guys? Okay. Right. Looks like there's a lot of ChainSafe and Filecoin people, right? So who is not from the Filecoin in the ecosystem? Can you raise your hands? Okay. So we have a couple. Okay. So I initially made this presentation for a different audience, but I think what we can do is probably make it more like a retro style, and then we have some people who are external to that. And oh, it's recording as well? Okay, it's recording, so we'll also make it based for people on the internet, right? Cool. So as you guys know, many of you know me, so I probably can skip the introduction slide, but I will keep it brief. So ChainSafe. So let's go first with who is ChainSafe, right? This is a quote that I like from David Attenborough. So if you guys don't know who David Attenborough is, right? Sir David Attenborough, who is a very keen explorer into the world of nature. And I think that's what we're kind of doing here as we go into the future, right? We're exploring the Web3 world. We're exploring what can we do with these technologies. Something to keep in mind as we kind of go forward. This is ChainSafe. Sorry, I took these pictures from all our newsletter. Not sure if it's copyrighted by our ChainSafe team, but that's who we are. We are very, if you have worked with us, which many of you guys have from the Filecoin team and internal, we're pretty laid back, chill people. As you can see, a lot of these events that have been orchestrated over time. And we are a blockchain R&D firm with a multi-chain perspective, and we believe in a future where there is more than one chain to not a one chain to rule them all, but more chains to probably not rule, but yeah. And we also firmly believe a lot of Web3 values but maybe that's something may not be very common in the bull market, but in the bear market it becomes very common, where we believe in the ethos of decentralization, open source, and doing something meaningful for the Web3 ecosystem as time goes by. And a little bit about myself, I'll just keep it brief. So many of you know I do project management for Forest. Forest is the Rust client for the Filecoin network. I've been involved with a lot of different things on a day-to-day basis with the Lotus team, things related to FVM, Filecoin improvement proposals. But before that, many of you may or may not know, and probably for the folks who are watching, I've been involved in the space since the early days of Ethereum, where I was a developer, contributed to some of the EIPs, was a developer advocate for decentralized oracles. Similar projects today include Chainlink or Ocean Protocol in the .NET network, and participated in a lot of security audits, and kind of saw how the development frame ecosystem evolved since the early days a bit. And some of the major contributions that I've made include, some EIPs and, work with FIPs, and also, lectures or talks or speaking in, big and small communities like this. Okay, so none of these people are here because they're based in Europe and they are in European time zone, but this is basically the few people who keep things together for the Forest client. I myself, I'm the TPM for Forest, and we have David, and we also have one person who was the previous team lead for Forest today, which you will see her in the panel. And then we are a distributed, decentralized team, keeping things together on the internet from various parts of the world. Something unique that a lot of the Web2 companies don't have, right? Today, as the future of work evolves, you could contribute anything, anywhere from any part of the world. Now that I have gone through some of the basic introduction, I think I'll focus the talk a little bit more on general ideas and things that maybe we can carry home a little bit, or some, spark of. I've lost my train of thought, but we'll come to that. So, into the forest, right? If you like Lord of the Rings, this is a quote from Bilbo Baggins himself. Not all those who wander are lost. That's a little bit about forest, right? So I've been thinking about forest, right? So if you think about like a node, it's kind of a boring technology, right? For a lot of people, it's not very interesting. But what actually does it mean, right? What does it mean to be forest, which is like a node implementation here? And that's kind of the, I think it's in France somewhere, not sure. The thinker statue, basically, right? What is exactly the meaning of forest, right? So what are the core things that we do that makes forest, or what really makes a node implementation in the first place? So one, definitely, things that we echo again and again, client diversity, right? We don't really want one client for the network. We want more decentralization. We want more resilient to the network. And that's kind of the difference between, well, a lot of projects that survive versus don't in the Web3 ecosystems, is the fact that how resilient you are and how decentralization matters. But don't want to sound like an echo chamber, but that's one important thing. The other thing that Forest currently does is maintains consensus to the client network. So for example, if Lotus client has some bugs or needs to goes down for a while, that's where we provide that you can get consensus to the network. Right now we are supporting mainnet as well as calibration net, and hopefully we'll be able to support more networks and more from Genesis configuration as time goes by, or maybe we'll leave that to the Lotus team and we can focus on something more like a lighter version of that. So that's point two. And we have also been actively involved with the FVM ecosystem. We have I believe the team has written over 400 tests for the reference FVM built-in actors, which is going to be moved in, which is coming in an NV16 upgrade. So we are co-authors of that. Governance, that's also really big that we participate on. Discussion on FIPs, contribution. Well, we haven't got a chance to fully contribute to FIPs, but that's something we're looking forward to in the near future. Governance, deciding on what FIPs goes into the next network upgrades, that's also something that we do. And something that's in the roadmap, but not very clear at the moment, but hopefully it'll become more clear as we go, is adding more features for people who want to build on FVM, maybe perhaps something that Forest can be a light client, or it can be focused on builders, all right? Whoever wants to build different things on the FVM can use Forest to build them, whereas Lotus stays at the main reference client. Well, a little bit moving on. That's kind of the core pillars where Forest stands as of, and as it's a moving technology, and we will move things fast, break things fast. Things might change, but as of today and 2022, that's kind of the basic things and the fundamental things that Forest does. Yeah, so this is, if you again like Lord of the Rings, this is a picture from there. It's Mirkwood, where things get dark and lost, right? So every project has those dark days, and every protocol or anything has dark days, right? So, and where did we get lost during this time frame, or what has been the toughest things that the Forest team, I was thinking about it, right? And kind of layered it down in a way. Filecoin, as you guys already know, it's pretty hard protocol. That's what people in my team constantly talk about. It's pretty hard to figure things out. You guys have, I don't know, IPLD here, those different types of data structures, etc., etc., etc. So it's difficult protocol to definitely build on, right? That's something to consider, and I think many people underestimate that. If you take that Filecoin is harder, what is even harder, that in general is building on moving tech, right? Because there's not really a fixed point of reference. And then things evolve, and then you have to put those pieces together, and then you have to get into a point where you have to basically hash things out and make a product. So that's step 2 harder. And the biggest challenge after that is that, okay, is finding skilled blockchain developers. Now, this is something I know it's in an industry, you know, blockchain developers are hard, but for protocol level, it's even probably harder. And also, if you go to the Web 2 world, you have a lot of programmers in the web world where there's a lack of, there's more resources, there's more networks, there's more events, you know. AWS hosts these mega events, conferences every year. Google does them, which is not the case for our ecosystem in crypto, right? And specifically also when we come into a protocol that is difficult and not very known, still unique in its way, it becomes more harder. And the last thing that everybody know, decentralized storage is probably next to impossible. But that's where I think people underestimate things that the Filecoin protocol has achieved and done to make decentralized storage happen, which is not a very easy but an extremely daunting task. But not all is gray or doom. In this slide, you know, it's more like if you can see, you know, I put fireflies in the forest as the heading here. Reason being, in a dark forest, if you are in a tropical area, you will always see fireflies lighting up the pathway, right? And what has really helped us to do that as a team, you know, as a forest team, and all the people that I've worked with, are a couple of things. And these are very subtle things that people maybe don't talk about. You know, people generally talk about, oh, you know, we have the smartest people, we have the best developers, we have X, Y, Z. But something what I've noticed over the year working in forest, and what has actually made a significance, are these couple of things, right? At ChainSafe, as well as, you know, Filecoin, as well as in forest, we try to keep a long-term vision, not try to attack problems that are short-term or that solves the problem today, but, you know, more have like a long-term horizon, right? That can add value to the network, that can add value to the crypto ecosystem. Second part, which is very underrated, and I think my colleague from Lotus team had mentioned before, collaboration, especially in your distributed ecosystem, as well as remote work. It's very difficult to collaborate, and it's probably very underrated on how difficult this can get based on time zones, based on you know, people's work ethic, based on certain cultural differences, diversity differences. It can get very challenging. But that's where a lot of interesting things work, when you're together able to build something for the future that you cannot do it alone. More than that, I think what really binds us together with the Filecoin as well as ChainSafe, I think our values in the ecosystem, right? We are open source, we believe in decentralization, we believe in making something really meaningful to the Web3 world, as internet should have been in the first place, if not it is today. And yeah, and the last point here, good people are the key. Many a times, it is very underrated how hard it is to find good people to work with, and how hard it is to retain them, and how hard it is to form a long-lasting relationship. And that's something I have personally realized within ChainSafe, that it is very hard to find and work with good people, and for which I'm incredibly thankful for both ChainSafe and Filecoin Foundation in general, to work with some of the best people, and just good people in general, which is definitely an underrated thing that people don't really talk about in teams. So if all works out well and according to plan, this is kind of what it'll look like in the future. You know, we have different nodes that different people are working. Their network is resilient. We have Forest, we have Lotus, we have Venus. Yeah, that'll be a nice future to have, hopefully by the next bull run. So let's see, into the future. Okay, a little bit about, if you don't know Alan Key, he's one of the famous computer scientists and programmer. The only way you can predict the future is to build it, and that's what we're kind of doing here. Even though, bear market audience is generally smaller. Something, right, roadmap on what we're looking at. And recently in the last quarter, or around this quarter, we did work with the FVM testing. We have written over 400 tests. We worked with a lot with the Lotus team in the built-in actors repo. Next is the Skyr upgrade, and I think there'll be more discussions around it for the FVM. And our goal is to make remove more duplicate and redundancy code that went into the FVM and built-in actors and make Forest client very clean and lean. Once we are able to do that, we'll be able to add more features and hopefully support more multiple networks and basically have a clean skeleton to add more things on top of that. Going forward, in the end of the year, probably there'll be a network NV17 upgrade, which we're talking about. Perhaps we'll look into adding more debugging features for Forest for a lot of developers, and depending on how much interest there is on the FVM from the developer crowd. And some other ideas that have been in discussion is about making Forest a light client, which is still yet to be determined. And next year, we'll see where things are at. But hopefully, we can get into a very solid production level for the Forest client, unless Lotus team kind of requests different types of work and we are derailed from our destination. But just a joke aside. Right, so that's kind of what's looking for the Forest roadmap. Yeah, this is going to be my last slide, and after that, open to questions if you guys have any. But this is something I was thinking, right? Like I said, I initially built this for a different audience, but something that I want to emphasize. I was thinking, okay, well, what do I put on the last slide, right? So these are some of the projects that we at ChainSafe work with Filecoin, right? We have a Forest, which is the Rust client. And we have worked with, you guys know about storage, which is probably some of you can speak more about that than me. We have ChainSafe Files, which is like a decentralized Dropbox. We have gaming SDK. We have FilSnap, which is MetaMask Snap for Filecoin dApps, Substrate Bridge, enabling dApps to work between Substrate and Filecoin ecosystems. We have done some work on research on graph integration and also worked on core libp2p infrastructure within the ecosystem. So when I first visited ChainSafe, I couldn't find the office. And if you guys are from in Toronto, this is our entrance to the office. Which I was like, okay, where is our office, And then I had met one of my friend and coworker, Eric, and he was like, oh yeah, I know where it is, And he took me out into this little bit shady area, right? This is the entrance. But the reason why I point out at this is because you don't really know where big things start from, and you don't really know, and it can start from very small places, just like we have seen, Amazon was started. Apple was started in a garage, as well as a lot of different Mark Zuckerberg from his Harvard dorm room. So we are here today in this conference. Might be a small group of people, but that doesn't mean that big things cannot happen from small places, and that's what I wanted to leave with to everybody to just keep in mind as we plow towards the future of Web3. And that'll be all on my end. Thank you very much. Any questions, or I will go back to my seat. Okay.
In that last slide, you were showing a lot of really interesting higher-level services on top of centralized storage. Are you seeing demand for computation on top of that storage, like Unity gaming and all these other things like that? Do you have any sort of ideal how that should come to fruition, or?
What do you mean by computation? Right.
On top of the data stored there, are you seeing demand for people to do any game processing or centralized Dropbox? Does the compute services around that storage need to be decentralized?
Right, right. Probably there's a better person to answer this question in the room, but I'll take a stab at it. If Colin, if you want to answer that. But in general, there is certainly, we have seen demand from using storage as a whole. So for example, like storage, which is mostly like an S3 on Filecoin network, right? So gamers are storing different kinds of blockchain assets or NFT file storage, or the biggest problem that we have right now is the retrieval time. So that can take quite a bit of time if you store it in cold storage. Once that improves, I think the demand will be more. But in general, there is, but I'm not sure if it's as equivalent to probably not as one of the centralized providers, just because of performance and uptime and things like that. Not sure if Colin, if you had any insights.
That's a great summary. Yeah, it's just there is definitely demand, and we just have to get the performance to where the gaming studios need it to be. And there's a lot of people working on that, including Train Safe. I definitely think we will get there.
Cool. Any more questions?
What are maybe some of the biggest hurdles you've had to overcome as a forest, as one of the kind of core implementation projects?
Right. Okay, that's a tough question. Let's see. Yeah, so biggest problems. I think one of the biggest issues that we, in the past, that we had encountered is not having the there's so many moving parts in the Filecoin in general. So there are different layers, right? So for example, you have things, how things work differently in IPFS, then you have things that work in different consensus layer area, then you have things then you have markets modules where things are very separate from mining compared to computational. And putting all those pieces together for a team of engineers who haven't really spent 4 or 5 years within the Filecoin network, I think that's definitely challenging, even for the best of the best engineers. So when we are building teams, and generally we have some really professional people who have worked with really difficult things. Like one of our engineers, he had worked with graphics designing for the last 10, 15 years, right? He has programmed on really lower level language and systems building abstraction layers, like working on C++ or Haskell. But still, it is very difficult to put the knowledge for how blockchains work, then on top of that, how Filecoin works, and then on top of that, how systems lower level protocol things work, and then deliver into something useful. And on top of that, you're still missing the direction on what the market needs or what the market is really demanding out of you, right? So within this territory, it really becomes difficult on, okay, what direction we should pursue or what problem we need to solve first. I think that has been one of the biggest challenges. The other one being just the nature of fast technology, right? You build things fast, you break things fast, and then you go back, you're like, okay, we gotta fix this before we kind of got there, and just back and forth. But I don't think that really can be avoided for something like the crypto space. But as we mature, maybe that'll be better. Just like how, back I remember in 2017 when I was programming in ETHLand, ERC20 was a very difficult thing to program, right? Remix used to break down, things used to happen. But today, anybody can Google a 10 minutes video and can do that. And hoping that by next 4 or 5 years, we'll see that in Filecoin ecosystem. Not sure if this answers your question, but there's my lousy attempt to answer. Yeah, anybody else have anything? Okay. Oh. Why Rust? Yeah, good question. Why Rust? Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm the best person, but I'll take an attempt for that. So I think this is what passed on knowledge from the development team. Usually, what they have told me generally, or this is also an interview question that we ask our people who are coming in our position, like, oh, why do you like Rust? Why do you think Rust is important or whatnot, right? From what I've heard is it's good to build lower level systems, and blockchains fit perfectly. You can go endless talking about, okay, there's a good, you can compile things well, it gives you errors, it's mutable. But from a very higher level, from what I understand, that blockchains are a lower level systems, and not all languages are fit for it. That's why okay, this is, I'm recording, but there was one blockchain that used JavaScript. But it didn't really work out that well, because JavaScript is probably not the best to work on such lower level areas. That's why I think Rust has picked up, because it's very good and malleable to build blockchains. And when it comes to us Forest, I don't know why we picked Rust. Maybe that was the idea, that maybe for Rust is going to help us do things faster, easier, or build things that can be more performant, or that can be more malleable and will help blockchains. That's really that I can offer so far, but maybe somebody else can give more better answers than me. You had a question? Show you the money. Yeah, that's a question for a lot of different people here. But yeah, mining can Lotus mine right now? Yes, right. If you can, yeah. So I think if you install Lotus, and if you want to be a miner, there are a couple of things you can do. You can be like a storage provider, right, where you're storing files for different people on the network, and based on that, you will get you can earn. And there's a different, excuse me, there's another area you can do. If you don't want to be a storage provider, you can just be a retrieval node, where you can help people retrieve files, and that gives you an incentive as well to earn Filecoin. But it's a little different on how consensus works in something like Bitcoin, where you run a node software and then you have a proof of work, and it's a little different in Filecoin network. But those are the two things that I can think of for general consumers or hobbies that could do. Or you can, yeah, that's and hopefully with FVM, when more people build and there are more applications, there will be more interesting things there. Yeah, maybe not sure if you will be able to mine using like a normal laptop or something. You'll probably need more more of an expensive or more cost or heavy infrastructure setup for that. Yeah, not sure if your computer is going to blow up, but I don't think you'll be able to use a normal laptop for that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. No, that's a really good question. And initially, like, that's kind of the idea that we thought that Forest is, going to be the parity for kind of Ethereum, right? And honestly, without some of the things that Consensus did for Ethereum, and also like parity in general, Ethereum would have struggled a lot in the early days. And I think that's a really good question, in the sense that right now, probably it's mostly Lotus, Venus, and Forest, right? And hopefully there'll be more clients as we go. But how to make people keep using it? I think the key really lies there. It's well, not to rehash product things, but what do they really find valuable, and try to solve one or two problems there, and for a specific group of people, right? Especially with client implementation, don't remember at this point, but Parity had a lot of debugging tools, I think, for developers. Right, 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 right. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, if we're looking at long term, let's say, whatever, 5, 10 years, and the market changes overnight here, right? And like we have seen in the last couple of weeks, it's to constantly, probably, it's not like a one thing that we will do. Let's say we say, oh, okay, Forest is a light client or for developers, and then we just leave it as it is. No, I think it's about finding what Forest can do. Pick an area in the Filecoin network that can continuously add value for the years to come, right? So if it's developers, first it might be just something like, okay, we just add something, debugging tools, you guys can deploy things into the FVM net, right? And then it might be more. It will be more be like, okay, how can we even make it more easier and make it even lighter for you guys to do more than that? And basically doubling down on that niche area, and hoping that there is a monopoly at some point where, most of the users are concentrated into something like, for MetaMask, right? MetaMask was default, de facto way to connect to the Web3 world for a lot of time. And until recently, they didn't even charge money for it using MetaMask. And I think that's really important to make sure to focus on the problems and the adoption first before even kind of going there, okay, this is pay us, right? And I think that's my answer. Probably not a good answer, but so answer for you. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, I think it'll be all. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.